When you sit down to study Spanish on YouTube, what is the first thing you should do to maximize your learning? Which video should you watch and why? And after you finish watching a video, what should you do next? Now this is me, and I've just started learning a new language.
Ile to kosztuje? Muszę coś jeść. Muszę sobie czegoś napić.
So I wanted to see how quickly I could learn Polish using YouTube as a language learning tool. And YouTube is an amazing tool, but it's not perfect. YouTube has its strengths and its weaknesses, and it's our job as language learners to harness the strengths and then find tactics to get around the weaknesses. So the first thing that I do when I start to learn a new language is I create a new channel within my YouTube account dedicated to that language. And as you can see here, I have 4 channels dedicated to the languages that I'm learning. So we have Italian, Spanish, French, and a new channel I've just created for Polish, right? Then if I click on the Spanish channel, you can see here that YouTube's algorithm is serving me videos all in Spanish based on videos I've already watched on this channel. Now, if you're anything like me, you have multiple interests. You know, I'm into rock climbing and movies and music and food and travel as well as language learning. And so I don't want YouTube's algorithm serving me a video that's going to distract me while I'm in the middle of a study session working on my French. Go Adam, go, send it, send it. Oh, I was just distracted. Just 1 minute. 1 minute. It was just a short break. I promise. I'll get back to my French studies in a moment. So that's why this practical tip of separating out your interests into multiple channels is a good first step to making YouTube a more effective language learning tool. Now, I have more practical tips that I'm going to share with you later, but there is a much more important idea that you need to understand if you want to learn a language faster with YouTube. Now, the critical steps happen before and after you watch any video. Before you watch a video, it's all about video selection. Which videos do you watch and why? So about 4 weeks ago, after deciding I was going to learn some Polish, I went to my new Polish channel and I searched for videos I could use to get me going. So I put in things like Polish for beginners, basic Polish phrases, and important Polish vocabulary for beginners. I then spent about an hour, searching in YouTube, looking for videos and channels that I liked. And I came across this one channel, Learn Polish with Monica. And by the way, shout out to Monica. I think she's doing a wonderful job. Then of her videos, I ended up picking these 2 videos here, 100 common phrases in Polish, 100 most useful Polish words, because they cover a broad range of basic important phrases with explanations in English. And this is exactly what I'm looking for at this stage of learning. I then went through the 2 videos and I took a bunch of notes, and we can use this as the basis for what we do next. So after you've found a good video that's going to maximize your learning at your current stage, what do you do after you finish watching it? Now, the next step is all about review and memorization. How to remember everything that we are learning. This is probably the most important idea in this video and is ultimately what will determine how effective you are at learning with YouTube. And to understand this, I need to introduce you to the idea of the 3 buckets. Now, this idea is so important that I really want to, look, let me show you.
Okay. So I will put you right there. See, how does that look? Oh, lighting. Okay, so I don't have buckets, but I do have these saucepans. And I kind of want to write on here, but I think my wife will kill me if I do. So I'm going to put something maybe here in editing. But I want you to think about these 3 saucepans where this one represents everything that you don't know about the Spanish language. These are all the things that you've never seen before. This saucepan represents all of the words, phrases, grammar rules, colloquial expressions, things that you've seen at least once. And then this saucepan represents the Spanish, the words, the phrases, the grammar rules. These are things that you have absolutely mastered. These are words that you would know as well as you would know anything in English. So for most Spanish students, things like hola, ¿qué tal, cómo estás? These are the things that they can use even from beginner stage, like really effectively in a conversation. That's what this saucepan represents. Now, every time we watch a video on YouTube, we take something from here to here. This is when we learn a new topic. Then when we do a really good job of reviewing, practicing, memorizing, then the Spanish goes from here to here. Now it's worth noting that it takes about 20 minutes to take something from here to here, but then it takes about 20 hours to take something from here to here. So the speed that we learn a language will depend on how well we select things from this saucepan and then how well we prioritize our time to get through the bulk of the work to get the information from here to here. Now I've only been learning Polish for about 30 days and I just want to show you where I've gotten to with my Polish using Monica's videos. So to start, if I just want to say hello, things like cześć, co słychać, jak się masz, which would be like, hi, what's up, how are you? If I want to get to know someone, I can ask things like, jak się nazywasz, what's your name? Nazywam się Andrew. Skąd jesteś? Where are you from? Jestem z Australii. I'm from Australia. I could ask, gdzie mieszkasz? Where do you live? Gdzie pracujesz? Where do you work? Then there's a whole series of phrases that I've learned if I'm actually struggling with someone's Polish. I could say something like, nie rozumiem, I don't understand. Or I could ask them to repeat themselves. I could say, możesz powtórzyć? Can you repeat that? Or I could say, możesz mówić wolniej? Can you speak a little slower?
Now, I realized in editing, it's not particularly interesting to watch me go through Polish phrases like this. But the point is that I've used 2 videos. That's it, just 2 in a month. I've then spent about an hour a day, so about 30 hours mastering all of the words and phrases in these 2 videos. I can now confidently use about 150 phrases in Polish, and I have an active vocabulary of about 300 words. Now, it's also taken me a while to get used to the sounds of Polish, and I still have a long way to go. But one of my favorite phrases so far is wszystkiego najlepszego, which means all the best in Polish, and it took me days to learn how to say that. Now the next step is I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick 2 more of Monica's videos, and I'm going to continue to build my knowledge of sounds, vocabulary, and grammar like this. So this process worked pretty well for me as a beginner in Polish, but what do you do if you're an intermediate or an advanced learner? As an intermediate or advanced student, I think there are 3 things to consider for video selection. Number 1, the most obvious being the stage of learning, beginner, intermediate, or advanced, and then you need to think about your weaknesses and your interests. So if you're an intermediate student, but you still have some weaknesses around some of the difficult topics in Spanish like por versus para, ser and estar, direct and indirect objects, and then, verbs like gustar, then you need to pick a video on that topic. And you can use some of the videos on this channel at Real Fast Spanish, and then go through the process like I have with my Polish. Aim for an hour a day, every day, until those words and phrases are absolutely mastered. They're in your mastery saucepan. Then you can pick another area of weakness and continue like this. In addition, at some stage, you can start to think about the transition from videos that are created for students that are learning Spanish, like on this channel, to videos created by Spanish natives for Spanish natives for entertainment. Now that's mostly what I do when I'm studying Spanish these days myself. I'm going to pick videos for Spanish natives for entertainment in order to find words and phrases that are unusual enough for me, such that they're in my saucepans number 1 or number 2. So I just want to show you what the process looks like as an advanced student of Spanish, what my study sessions are going to look like. So I've picked this YouTube video here by Luisito Comunica. Now, Luisito is a YouTuber, a vlogger. He does lots of travel videos. He's from Mexico, and his videos are for entertaining natives. And so if you're an advanced student, you like travel and you like Mexican Spanish, then this is definitely a channel I think you should be subscribed to. So let's watch this video and see if we can pick up some of those words and phrases that might be in my saucepans, say 1 and 2.
Oye, se arma la diversión, se arma la pachanga.
All right, so straight away in the first 2 seconds of the video, we've got something that is a little bit unusual. So, se arma la diversión, se arma la pachanga. So, pachanga, this is an interesting word. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research just for a second.
A few minutes later.
All right, so pachanga is definitely a word that is a bit unusual. It's something that I may have seen before, but I don't really remember. And since Luisito is from Mexico, sometimes some of the phrases and expressions he's going to use on his channel are going to be very Mexican based. And so what I just did is I just messaged in our Spanish school at Real Fast Spanish, we have teachers from Mexico and teachers from Spain. And I just messaged our teacher from Spain, Susie. I just wanted to ask her, hey, do you know this word pachanga. I want to know if we could use it outside of Mexico. And she said that we can use a phrase like this, se arma la pachanga. And so really translating this into English, we would have, se arma la diversión, se arma la pachanga is like the fun is on, the party is on. So it's kind of like, you can even get it from context as he's walking through the crowd, he's sort of saying, oh, the music's going, the fun is about to begin, the party is about to begin. So yeah, pachanga is an interesting word, and obviously, if he uses it and our teacher from Spain uses it, we can probably surmise that this might be a word that we can use in lots of Spanish-speaking countries. But let's keep going and see what else we can find.
Empieza a dar sed de la mala sensación. Va a estar bueno, va a estar chido, va a estar sabroso.
Yeah, okay. So this is a word that I definitely have seen before. I know this is sitting in my saucepan too, but I'm not using it, and I'm unlikely to use it. Even with my Mexican friends, I celebrated New Year's with some Mexican friends, and I don't remember using this word. So, chido, va a estar chido, right, is what he said. So this is going to be great, this is going to be awesome. And this word chido is definitely a word that we're not going to want to use outside of Mexico. Let's see what else we can find.
El partido que vamos a ver es Japón contra Costa Rica, contra Costa 7-0, y esperamos encontrarnos a muchos ticos buena onda ahí.
Esperamos encontrarnos a muchos ticos. So this phrase here, ticos, which is another interesting one. I realized, and you can get this from context while watching the video, but tico is like an informal way to refer to someone from Costa Rica. Yeah, listening to him talk about it, he's walking around looking for Costa Ricans and looking for ticos. And I think, sometimes when you learn a word like this, particularly if it's informal, you've got to sort of work out whether it's offensive. I think that's probably going to be the most critical thing. So I sort of want to see if he's going to interact with them and refer to ticos. But knowing Luisito, he's going to be generally politically correct. He's got a wonderful personality and he's very charismatic. So I can't imagine he would use a word that was offensive. But we'll keep watching. We'll see what else we can find.
Y apoyando al equipo, aunque el pasado partido de Japón estuvo, ya veremos, tal vez ya están adentro en la porra. ¿Cómo será la hinchada?
Yeah, okay. So here's another word which is really interesting. Now this is a word that I have definitely seen before and I have used, so porra, but I just need to do a little bit of research.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Yeah, okay, so looking this up, porra. So I know this word generally means, like in a general sense, it's going to mean like a club, like a baton, like something that like maybe a police officer would carry on their belt. But in Spain, porra refers to the thick version of the churros. But hearing Luisito use this word, he said, tal vez ya están adentro en la porra. So he's looking for the ticos, he's looking for the Costa Ricans, he's wondering where they are, and he said maybe they're already inside en la porra. And in this case, porra in Mexico refers to, say, the fan zone inside a stadium. So whenever you've got, the hardcore home fans sitting in one section of the stadium, that, at least in Mexico, we can refer to that as la porra. But definitely this word would only get used like this in Mexico. So I'd be fairly confident if you want to use porra outside of Mexico, it wouldn't work. But with a Mexican friend, if you're going to a stadium, you could refer to la porra as the section where the fans are sitting.
Con un video nuevo. Adiós. Y pura vida, okay?
Pura vida.
Mae, pura vida, mae.
Pura vida. Okay. I've just made it through that whole video, and look, there are really only a couple of words that I really didn't know or I'm not thinking about or using much. So we've got that pachanga, we've got chido, we've got porra, and then we've got the ticos to refer to the Costa Ricans. So I could take those 4 words and say, well, these are kind of things that I'm not feeling particularly comfortable with my Spanish, and I could run them through a review process and make sure I'm memorizing them. But this is what happens sometimes when you're quite advanced is, you watch a 15-minute video and only pick up on a couple of things. And so then I might have to watch maybe a couple of other videos just to sort of boost my learning if I wanted to get, say, a few more words for the day.
Now, when is the best time to make this transition? Now, I think you could transition at any stage to native content for natives. But personally, the thought of doing this now with my Polish is just too much. It's just too intimidating. I would rather build my vocabulary using videos for beginners for a while, because if I jumped into a video now for Polish natives for entertainment, it would be just too much for me to handle. It might take me 100 hours or more just to master the vocabulary from one video. And so I will leave it until I have a much bigger knowledge base in Polish. So for me, that might be at least another 2 to 3 months. So we've covered what to do before watching any video in terms of video selection. Now what do we do after we watch a video? How do we review what we're learning? Well, the review process looks exactly the same at all levels. So the way I memorize phrases and vocabulary as a beginner in Polish, an intermediate in French, or an advanced student in the Spanish language, it all looks the same. Now, personally, I love using, say, pen and a piece of paper, as well as Anki as the two primary tools that I use for review and memorization after watching any video because they're really effective. So when I say that I spend about an hour a day, that's usually 20 minutes looking for new words and phrases, maybe 20 minutes adding those phrases to Anki, and then 20 minutes reviewing the new flashcards and the old flashcards. So I've got some new words at the end of Monica's video here that I want to add to my Anki deck, and I just want to show you what the process looks like. So here we have this video, and she's introduced the word right at the end here, bardzo, which means very much. It's very similar to the Spanish word mucho. And then she's got this phrase right at the bottom here. So to jest bardzo ciekawe. So I've written that down here, to jest bardzo ciekawe. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that to Anki. So I'll pull up Anki here. I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to add to jest bardzo ciekawe. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Wiktionary and I'm going to pull out the IPA pronunciation of this word, ciekawe. I'm going to add that here under pronunciation, and then I'll just put in here the English translation. What I could also do is I can add a recording of a Polish native saying this word. So you can head over to Forvo, ciekawe, and then I can actually take that recording and add it.
Ciekawe.
I can add it to my flashcard. Then what I'll do is I'll press add, and I'll close that. And I'll sync, and what this will do is I can then synchronize Anki from my computer to my iPhone, and then what I can do is I can then study, say, the new and the old flashcards for the day, and what I'll do is I'll just record this and throw this up, here maybe, so you can see what I'm seeing as well. Here we have, say, some of the old words that I've already looked at before, so we've got poczekaj, which means wait, I know that one. Anything else? Coś jeszcze, which is anything else. If someone's asking you at the end of the meal, co chcesz? Yeah, so it took me a little while, that one. So what do you want? Muszę iść do łazienki. I have to go to the bathroom. To jest bardzo ciekawe. So straight away, there's that new card that we've added today. Now, I already know that it means it is very interesting. So that one's kind of easy, but it's something that I might want to look at, say, tomorrow. So I've added this one phrase here, and I'm probably going to add these three others today. But one really interesting question, something to consider, is how many new phrases should I add every day to be able to continue in a sustainable way? So I'm about to say probably the most controversial thing that I'm going to say in this video. And so rather than state something controversial, I'm just going to throw it out there as a question. What is the fastest rate that you can learn and master new vocabulary on a daily basis? So for me, I've been learning Polish for about 30 days and I feel like I've mastered around 300 words. And so from experience, this rate of about 10 new words a day, it feels about my speed limit. And from experience, when I've tried to improve my knowledge of other languages, when I've tried to learn 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 words a day, my brain just checks out. Like when I'm studying my flashcards, I'll just look at new words beyond, say, a 10 or 20 word limit, and my brain will just go, I can't remember that, I can't remember that, I can't remember that. And then when I come back the next day and I see those same words, I'm able to learn and memorize them straight away. And it's like I start each day with a new capacity to memorize new vocabulary. So please let me know in the comments, does this sound about right for you? When you're trying to push yourself to learn quickly, can you learn 10 new words a day, 20 new words a day, 30 new words a day? This limit of, say, 10 words a day, does it feel about right? And this is important because once we know this number, say it is 10 words a day, for example,
then this then allows us to plan our viewing and study habits.
So when you're selecting videos to watch and then later study, review, and memorize, I think the key to this is to plan to learn vocabulary at a constant pace. If we select videos that have too many new words, it might take a long time to master them. So we want to aim for videos that have enough new words to keep us going for a while, but not so much that it could take us months to learn.
So as I mentioned earlier, I've got a few more practical tips that I want to share with you for making YouTube a more effective language learning tool. So one of the things we need to talk about is subtitles. Now, of course, if we're going to be learning a language, we want to find videos with subtitles in them. And a lot of videos aren't going to have the subtitles, but Google has a pretty good algorithm with its, auto-generated by artificial intelligence, and it's not too bad. So the video we were watching earlier from Luisito, I don't think he generally uploads human-generated subtitles. They're all generated by an algorithm, and they're not too bad. When I was watching that video before, I had a quick look at the subtitles. I was trying to work out, whether there were words missed, and there were. So I would say about 90% of the time, the algorithm is going to miss words and phrases, but 90% is not bad. And so what I would say is if you're watching a video and there's a sentence or two that you can't understand, there's a good chance the algorithm won't understand it. But if that's the case, either don't worry about it, just move on. Sometimes, microphones aren't perfect. I know my microphone doesn't always get everything right, and sometimes people muffle and speak quickly. So, one of the biggest advantages of YouTube is there are thousands of videos. So if you get caught on a phrase or a word you just can't understand because the audio's bad, just don't worry about it, move on. But if you do want to find videos that have subtitles, the best way to do it is to search for them. So what you can do is say, pick a subject that you're interested in. We know I'm interested in rock climbing, so I might put in something like el mejor lugar para escalada. So I'll do a search like this and look, and so straight away we've got one at the top here. So we've got el mejor lugar para escalada en Cuba. So there is a YouTuber here that's done some rock climbing in Cuba, and so we look for the, see here, it's got the CC. When you see that logo in the search, this doesn't appear on the homepage of YouTube, but if you search for something, you see CC on this page, then it tells you that a human being has uploaded subtitles. So if we click on this video,
Estamos fuera aquí de coronavirus.
so we've got that Cuban accent. And if we look in here, yes, this is what I was worried about, right? So we've got English, French, Japanese, Portuguese, and Russian. So, he's taken the time to get all of these done manually and uploaded them, but then the Spanish is auto-generated, and that's not quite what we want. So if I come back here and we look, here's the next one down with another CC. So, que hace que Alejandro sea el mejor escalador del mundo. So we look at this video.
Para mí, ni siquiera es un debate.
Para mí, ni siquiera es un debate. And if we look in here, so now I can see there's a funny looking file name, but es.us.srt. So that suggests to me that a human being has gone through this video and put together subtitles, which means they're going to be very accurate. So the next thing is, once you've found a video with subtitles, one of the things that I would really suggest you do, like when I was watching before with Luisito's video, is to go into theater mode. And so, one of the problems with YouTube is that it distracts us, and the algorithm is designed, they're going to put these clickbaity videos over on the right hand side when we're on the computer, and if your eye catches across, you see something clickbaity and you just want to watch it. And so we've got to kind of fight the algorithm a little bit. YouTube's trying to keep us on there, and if we just sort of hide the videos down to the side, it allows us to focus on the video we're watching at the time. Now the other thing we can do is, when we know we've got accurate subtitles, we can press this button down here, show transcript, and then we can go out of theater mode, and the transcript will appear over on the right hand side. And so it sort of has that same effect of going into theater mode. It sort of pushes the videos down the side that can kind of distract us, and it means we can watch the video and we can have all of the subtitles written out on the right hand side. Now something else I know that a lot of students are into is, say, some of these software add-ons that we can get with our internet browsers. And so I have been experimenting with 3 for this video, and I don't always use them, but I know that a lot of students find them quite popular, and so I was experimenting with language learning with YouTube Beta. I experimented with this one. language learning with Netflix and YouTube. I've experimented with this one, and then language reactor. Now, of the three, I would definitely say that language reactor is probably my favorite, but I would just caution with these things is like, I'm going to publish this YouTube video and then maybe in 6 months from now, you know, one of these apps is no longer available or there's a better one. And so I think the advice I'm giving you right now is like, if you are into apps, just constantly look for them and test them. And, you know, for me, I really found like the other two, language learning with YouTube Beta and language learning with Netflix and YouTube, the things I didn't like about them is the software seemed a bit clunky and it wasn't always working. And one of the reasons I like Language Reactor the best out of the three is it just seemed to be working all the time. And so I can show you what it does. And so if we go back to this video here, talking about Adam Ondra being the best climber in the world, and we can turn on Language Reactor. So what this does is it gives us all of these additional features. And so now we've got the ability to actually put the Spanish and the English on the screen at the same time. You know, if we don't like that, we can go into the settings and we can hide it so we only see the Spanish. Or we can turn it back on if we want it there. Then there's a few extra features which are really cool. There's an automatic pause button here. And what this means is with every line of dialogue, we can press play.
Hay buenos escaladores, hay grandes escaladores, hay algunos talentos.
And it just pauses. So if it's going a bit faster, it gives us time to actually stop and think about that particular line of dialogue in the video. And we can turn that off. Over on the right-hand side, there's an ability to skip forward and back and then replay the line that you're on. So if you felt like that line was particularly hard, we can just press repeat.
Generacionales. Y luego está Adam Ondra.
And we can repeat it again.
Generacionales. Y luego está Adam Ondra.
You know, and actually it has the key shortcuts as well. So A, S, and D, we can sort of skip forward, skip back, and repeat certain things. Then if we find a word, you know, here if I just pick on luego, imagine that's a word that you didn't know, we can click on it.
Luego.
It'll pop up, give a few examples of that, and then we can add it, mark as learning, so it's looking for it wants us to do a paid version. I mean, there's still a lot of free features that are really, really good here. So mark as known. I felt like I could add this to. Okay, all right. So this is a good example of like when I'm testing out these software features, is the things that work and don't work. But essentially, what allows us to do, when I was testing this earlier, is it seemed to work fine. Is we could pick a word, and then we come over to this saved area. And I was doing this for my Polish when I was working on a Polish video. And you can see I've got all these phrases saved in here of words and phrases that I didn't know in Polish. And so then you can go back and you can review them. And so kind of like what I was doing with a piece of paper and a pen and with Anki, I can make a list within the software so it can kind of help that process. You can just click on the word and then add it to a list. And then later, I actually think that there's software built in and it actually has its own flashcards, so you don't even need to use Anki, you can just do everything within the app. So I would just recommend that you experiment with this. If you like this sort of thing and you want these additional add-ons, I think there can be some really good features, and yeah, if you're prepared sometimes to pay even for the paid versions, it can make the whole process of what I'm trying to do using Anki and piece of paper and pen, it can actually start to streamline everything even just within a YouTube window.
So as you can see, there is a lot of things that we can do to make YouTube a more effective tool for language learning. We have the practical side of tools that allow us to avoid distractions, but then we have the principles around video selection and review and memorization that will be the key for you to learn Spanish quickly. Now, as I pointed out a few times in this video, there are different methods of language learning, but there are really only a few principles. And to learn about the difference between a principle and a method and understand the principles of language learning, check out this video here.